Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening. I will call the February 14th Select Board meeting to order. Just bear with me 1 second while I make sure that I am on the Zoom. Okay, we have one member remote tonight. Tom, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. I believe we have one change to the agenda. We have a new business item that was not anticipated. It was a request that was just put forward from the Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee because they wanted to send a letter to Concom before the public hearing that they have scheduled for tomorrow in regard to the some potential changes to the wetland regulations. So we'll put that there, and otherwise I believe we'll accept the agenda as is and move to announcements.
Thank you. This meeting is being video and audio recorded. Town offices will be closed this coming Monday, February 19th, in observance of President's Day. And the Select Board and the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission have a joint meeting next Tuesday, February 20th at 6 p.m. at Room A of the meeting trailer at 131 Pleasant Street. If people would like to attend, it's a hybrid meeting. And, that's it.
Okay, are there any opening Select Board announcements or comments? Brooke?
I'll just say that I met with the other short-term rental article proponents today, and we will have a draft that we agreed upon for our review next week.
Matt?
Couple things. New York Times had an article today. East Coast is shrinking. And at first I saw it on my phone and I didn't pay any attention to it. Then it was sent to me, and Nantucket was included, and it's surveying that is showing different places that are sort of sinking already and predicted to sink more from with their satellite data, and it's coming from groundwater, which I thought was interesting. I hadn't really seen that before, so it's worth taking a look at. That's number one. Number two.
No problem. I wasn't on speaker. There we go. Sorry. Number two is I apologize. A couple weeks ago, we talked about select board pay, and I am in favor of it, but I didn't vote in favor of it that night. It wasn't that I was making a political point. I was just being kind of snarky because I had lost a vote earlier in the night and wasn't feeling very good. So I just wanted to say I am in favor of that. And just want to admit that I was, wasn't using my brain. So thank you.
Thanks, Matt. I think the FinCom was unanimous on it too, so that was good.
Well, that would actually go the other way, maybe.
I just wanted to make one quick comment about all of us as public officials, whether elected or appointed, do have a code of conduct that we sign every year. And although there are, many contentious issues in the community and many things that people don't agree upon, I just hope that we can get back to a little bit higher level of decorum in the press and on social media, to respectfully disagree and not bring forth as many personal attacks as have been kind of floating around sometimes. So I just wanted to mention that. Megan Perry sorry, Tom.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick shout out. This week, sadly, our family dog was at the end of her life, and the fire department assisted my aunt with with a tense situation, and they went above and beyond and showed compassion and great care for the situation. So I just wanted to thank them for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I'm not sure, Megan, is your hand up for public comment? So I don't believe we have any additional follow-up comments.
It is up for public comment, Dawn.
Okay, so I'm just going to say this is the public comment portion of our agenda, where anyone can raise an issue that is not otherwise on our agenda for discussion, and we would like to limit each topic to 3 minutes per our policy. So go ahead.
Thanks, Dawn. I appreciate it. I have a couple comments / questions, so I'll try to be less than 3 minutes with each one. The first one, I was following up on the select board's request for mediation between, I believe it was the town, Surfside Crossing, Nantucket Tipping Point, and Nantucket Land Council. Nantucket Tipping Point's attorney did reply and asked a few questions regarding mediation, and to date, to the best of my knowledge, the town has not answered. So I was just wondering if the town's attorney could reply to Nantucket Tipping Point's attorney's questions. That was my first question. And then after a very, very long airport commission meeting last night, where the location of jet parking and a PFAS berm installation occurred, I was wondering if the select board could have a joint meeting between the airport, the select board, and the Board of Health regarding this matter, because clearly there was a severe lack of due process and public input and education on this, and where the select board has signed off on a lot of these matters. I think it would be important. I also think it's important, given Brooke's presentation and comments a few weeks ago regarding the town and PFAS, and the, I don't know if it was a working group that she attended or something that she did with the town and PFAS. So I thought that might be something that the select board could do a joint meeting with the airport and the Board of Health, given it's a PFAS issue. And we could have a nice community conversation about it in the public. Along those lines, the neighbors along the airport who have PFAS contaminated wells at no fault of their own are losing their bottled water delivery on February 28th. However, the town water stubs will not be installed by then. So I'm wondering if the Select Board, Board of Health, Airport Commission can work on that so that those neighbors aren't further harmed by having, again, PFAS contaminated wells at no fault of their own, and then stuck with no drinking water provided for them by the town. So that was my question on that topic. My third one was, there's work being done at the Surfside Crossing site, and to the best of my knowledge, the town has revoked the permit for that building permit. However, removing earth from that site that would be considered early phases of foundation work for a project that the town has revoked the permit for. So I was wondering if the town administration could please look into that. I know the town administration doesn't always like to look into plus matters, but I just thought it was something that maybe the town could ask a few questions about and let the public know, because I received a ridiculous amount of text messages and phone calls and videos regarding sand leaving that site, going out to Siasconset and back in less than 29 minutes round trip. And so I was hoping that the select board might look into not only how fast they're driving, but site work being done on a location where the permit has been removed. And then my fourth comment, I was super glad to hear you bring up the code of conduct. I actually have asked for a number of code of conducts for board members, commission members, committee members, whatever, because I think it's important. You are the representatives of our town, and the Mass Municipal Association's handbook, there's a handbook for the select board, and the select board, it does say in there that you kind of set the stage for how things should be done and conducted. So I appreciate that you're bringing up the code of conduct that everybody should be following and representing the town. I know when we played sports in school on island, we always had to dress up to travel off island because we were representing Nantucket. And I think it's important that board, committee, commission members do the same thing when they are representing the town. So thanks so much. Appreciate it. Have a great night.
Thank you. Is there anyone?
Thank you. Diane Cabral. I'm just echoing Megan's comments about Surfside Crossing on Sunday, I heard Saturday also, but I witnessed on the Sunday, numerous trucks making many trips in and out of the site that's supposed to be shut down. I know that, it should be with Plus and building. I just wanted you to know, because you entered into a good faith agreement with these people. And I thought that you should be aware of what was going on there. Thank you.
Thank you. One more.
Good evening, Campbell Sutton. Happy Valentine's Day. So first, I'd like to say I was really glad to hear someone speak up about the code of conduct. I was not really aware, because I don't follow social media, so I wasn't really aware of what went on in the lettering and the correspondence. But my mother brought it to my attention. So I read it. I was at the planning board via Zoom on Monday, and nothing was said by anyone there that would in any way say that the thoughts that were expressed were not globally accepted, right? That this person was representing themselves, misrepresenting the town. It sort of has sounded as though this person was representing not just himself, but the planning board, NP&EDC, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, the Community Preservation Committee, etc. And I found that to be appalling. I was speechless. So I didn't say anything Monday night because I just couldn't put it together. So I really appreciate everybody getting on board with the code of conduct. I think it's very important that citizens, global citizens, should be treated with respect. And that lacked it. It was very attacking and obviously very upsetting to me. The other thing I'd like to say is I really appreciated all the snow removal and everything that the DPW did with this latest storm. I was able to walk my granddaughter to school this morning without incident, no slipping, no problems that way. There weren't a lot of walkers, but anyway, I appreciated that. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other public comments, I'm not seeing any more hands or anyone else in the audience. We have approval. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, I'm already skipping over it. Liaison. Leah, did you want to register your request?
Good evening. I don't know why my video is so dark. Hi. Leah Hill, the Coastal Resilience Coordinator for the town of Nantucket. The Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee's chair and vice chair couldn't be here tonight, so I'm here. The Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee yesterday approved a letter of support to the Conservation Commission in regards to the proposed wetlands regulation updates, specifically the buffer zones. And in their letter, they, I don't know, do you want me to read it to you, or was it sent to you all?
It was emailed to the board members.
Do you want
Okay, great. Thank you, Erica.
you have it available to put up on the screen? Okay.
So I'll give a synopsis. Within that letter, it just, says that they support the no impact buffer zone around wetlands, the extension from 25 feet to 50 feet, which that is currently not what the CONCOM is proposing. What the CONCOM is proposing is that the 25 undisturbed buffer zone stays as it is. And then the area between the 25 feet and 50 feet, 50% of that area stays undisturbed. So I just wanted to point that out with the letter. There's a little bit of inconsistency. But the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee, it's a little bit outside of their charge to put this letter forward, but it's what, has well intention, and they felt really strongly about the regulation update. The regulation update is a recommendation within the coastal resilience plan. And then the letter further just states that, salt marshes lining the shores and the harbors are important, and that as sea level rises, these buffer zones may have to change because of, sea level or the ocean infiltrating more of the terrestrial environment. So CRAC just wanted to know if it is okay to send this letter to the Conservation Commission. Tomorrow they're having a public hearing regarding the regulation updates. And so they wanted to check with the select board as they're an advisory committee.
Yeah,
Mal?
I'm on the committee, and basically we wanted to give some support to the Concom. There's a lot of people who are, sort of not supporting it or saying it's wrong and there's problems. And we wanted to support that they're looking ahead and trying to find a fair way to address some of these issues. So I think it's important we support them. So I'd like to make a motion that we allow them to send it if that's appropriate.
Second.
No, go. Okay.
Can I recommend one thing for me to change the wordage that says, with regard to expanding the no impact buffer zones around wetlands from 25 to 50 feet, since that is actually not being proposed, and just put in the right wordage for it.
Brock? So if that was the intention of, are we sure that was the intention of CRAC to support the proposal as written? It was just, it's a technical change, because I'm just,
that's
process-wise, I'm a little,
process, it's fine. It's
Okay.
a technical change. We left the final letter to be to Leah and Peter Brace to finish it in consultation, with Concom, with Jeff, and they've done that. And then Jeff got back this afternoon with those other changes, which was in our letter. And so this is entirely appropriate.
So I actually think that it is right for the CRAC to support these proposed regulations from their perspective, as a slice of the perspective of the entire change in the regulatory environment. I guess I'm not sure I know enough right now to support the proposal in full, but I support CRAC supporting it. And that sounds like I'm splitting hairs, but there's a distinction, because their perspective is what it is. They're to advise us on coastal resilience. And from that point of view, as far as the whole regulation, I don't want to be seen to be supporting it in full, because it came to me very late and I haven't had a chance to read it in full. Does that make sense?
Yes, and it's actually exactly how I feel. Like, I completely understand why, from a coastal resiliency perspective, anything that further expands protection of wetland areas is a positive thing. But we're going to have to think on some of the pieces of the proposal, and I know there's been some alterations, so I don't know the exact final version that they're trying to come to, about making properties non-conforming, sort of taking away certain property rights, and where infrastructure falls, and just those kind of questions that are certainly.
And I think Jeff answered
Coming
that in
up.
the letter that came to us today too.
Yeah, I
That is-
just glanced at that.
I know, so I do think that, yeah, and this is really, this is pretty high level. This isn't really getting into the weeds. And it was interesting that we ended the conversation, after we all supported this, we ended the conversation with a discussion of, these aren't the only changes. At some point, if you start thinking about the future, we'll pick on Brant Point, which I love to do, but you look at the future there, at some point, we're going to want to do things there that aren't allowed by the state wetlands regulations or our wetland regulations. People aren't going to want to have, they may be that we don't have roads. It may be that the houses are lifted on stilts and you're not putting $500,000 TV screens in cellars. That might be that people have beautiful homes there still in 50 or 100 years, but they're accessed with golf carts on boardwalks, and the water flows back and forth all day. And so there's things like that that aren't allowed now, but that if we're gonna have to learn to live with it, because Brand Point's a perfect example. It's not just water that's coming in from the ocean and from there, it's gonna come up from the ground. And so I think that there's gonna be things like that over time are going to, they're gonna have to be changes. And so this is sort of short term, or short and medium term, saying, okay, let's make sure that we still have areas for the water and things to flow. And then long term, how do we enable people to live with it? Or how do we find a way to move? So those are, but it was just interesting. Crack isn't looking at just the only thing we can do is restrict. That's not the thing. It's what is the smart thing for homeowners to do and for the town to do to begin to become resilient and begin to deal with this. So, and be proactive.
If I may just
Okay.
speak, Madam Chair.
Oh, yes, of course.
I mean, I followed this issue pretty closely, and certainly the proposed regulations have some issues, but in the direction they're going, I presently support them. Of course, I may change the I's and the T's and so forth later on, but I think we need to support this for all the reasons. For one, we have to support Concom. We're not necessarily endorsing those regulations, but I'm very strongly in favor of the general trend in which they're presently being drafted.
Okay, but our motion is to allow Crack to
Yes.
send
Yes.
their letter.
Yes. Because one of the things Crack is worried about is Crack is advisory to us, and they don't want to be doing something that, that is overstepping their bounds.
Oh,
So
no,
they'll come-
no,
yeah,
definitely. It was appropriate to make
Yeah.
the request.
Yeah, so here we are.
But I just wanted to be clear. I'll vote in favor if it's just that we are allowing Crack to send their opinion from their perspective.
And I'm just going to acknowledge that I got caught flat-footed on this hearing tomorrow, and that I would appreciate Concom giving the community a little more time to digest the amended version. It sort of was brought up a while back, and now it's back. And, as I said, I got caught on my heels, and I would appreciate if they had the hearing and maybe kept it open for one more meeting so we had some more time to, and I realize they are an independent regulatory board and they can do it's in their authority to do this, but it would be helpful to give us a little more time.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to make sure it's backed up with sound reasoning so that we're not opening the doors to litigation. Okay, can we vote?
Yeah.
All those in favor by roll call, because Tom is not here. Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb,
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously.
Great,
Okay.
thank you so much.
We'll tune in tomorrow. Thanks, Leah. Okay, next up, we have approval of minutes and Treasury warrants.
Move approval?
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb,
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. Then we have Citizen Departmental Committee requests and reports. Town Clerk request for approval of the election warrant for March 5, 2024, the presidential primary. Any questions, comments? Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb,
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. Next, we have a public hearing. I will open the public hearing for the Nantucket Sewer Commission public hearing to consider amendments to Nantucket Town and Siasconset Sewer District pursuant to Section 10 of the Nantucket Sewer Act regarding Articles 66, 70, 71 of the 2024 Annual Town Meeting. Good evening, David Gray.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. David Gray, Sewer Director. The Article 66 is the one that the town was looking to put forward. And some of the reasoning for this is it's listed on the criteria checklist. Because of everything that's going on with Baxter Road and the alternative access and having to run some new sewer lines, the new sewer line is going to pass by all these properties. And when that happens, properties that are adjacent to a publicly owned sewer line are mandated to connect. And now in order for these properties to connect, they have to be in the sewer district. So that we don't take and have our regulation going against their regulation. We're trying to take and bring everything in as one joint issue in talks with Roberto and Leslie and everything on this. It makes sense. And instead of doing postage stamp type additions to the zone and then having to go back the next week or the next year to do another couple of properties, this seems to make the most sense to us. And this, with everything to do with Baxter Road, it's kind of prompting this to move a little bit forward faster. So this is the reason why we brought all these parcels from number 62 up to 144, 112, I'm sorry, along Sankaty Road, as you can see in the map.
Yeah, David, who's the owner of the large parcels? The large parcels, yeah.
Sankaty
Yeah,
Golf.
so those will probably not change.
No, they won't change. And the golf course has shown some interest over the past few years that they want to try to sewer all of their buildings anyway. And they're not looking to develop anymore, maybe a couple more lots of housing, but they want to try to protect the water area that they have. So our recommendation was to approve this with any questions or comments you had.
Yeah, one more question.
Go ahead.
In the conversation, when you're looking at this, are we thinking long-term, because this isn't necessary to sewer for hydraulic reasons or anything else. This is all high ground and septics work fine there, correct?
It's all high ground, fairly large lots. It's just because we're going to be running a municipal sewer line down past this. There were some lots that have tried to get in last year, and there's a couple of lots still that for reasons weren't put in or were put in, but they belong to the foundation or something. So so we're trying to clean this area up, and this was all just part of the recent CWMP that's being done in Siasconset.
The reason I'm asking is I'm I see it both sides of it. I know why people want to be in, and I can see that, but there's also an incentive that as a town that we don't necessarily want to be encouraging in areas that in the future may be under threat. So if we take a long view here, it's one thing if all of a sudden, a few properties here are harmed and we've got to change the whole sewer system again. If one or two properties are harmed and they're on septic, then they're harmed and they deal with it. If we have to change the whole sewer system, then we all deal with it. And so, as long as those conversations are happening, I think that's a long way away on this situation. But I think one of the goals that we're trying to do when we move is not own the roads and not have as septic and have as few utilities responsibilities as possible in these at-risk areas from a town perspective.
And we're working very close. We have a large group that we work together with in monthly meetings, and this has all been talked about in depth. And there's a potential for some breaches at some point. We don't know when, but we're trying to think ahead to get this sewer line as far away from the dunes and banks as we can to bring it down. And it does go by a lot of properties, but it makes sense to try to bring everyone together.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this? Any other board comments before we close the public hearing? Is there a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's one public hearing
For all three,
for all three.
is it? Okay.
That's the way it's written on here.
But we haven't reviewed 70 or 71. I mean, 71 or, yeah.
Oh, in terms of putting up the maps? Yeah.
Before you close.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's put up the three maps on the screen, see if anybody else has comments.
This, the next article is, this is a citizens article, and Article 70, which is 62 and 64 Sankaty Road. This was voted down last year at town meeting. If Article 66 goes through, it actually includes these parcels and the parcel across the street to make everything contiguous to the sewer district, and that would be in compliance with the Board of Health Regulation 69. So if 66 is to pass, Article 70 would not be necessary.
Okay, and 71?
Article 71 is out in the Shimo, Nantucket Harbor area, also known as the Shakamo area. When we designed and built the Shimo, Nantucket Harbor Shimo project, we planned for Shakamo to eventually be added into the district. These two lots are closest, well, this one lot is closest to everything that we already have installed, so the infrastructure is right at the corner of their lot already. They are in the Nantucket Harbor Watershed District, so they're already in a listed needs area, and they're just kind of moving a little bit faster than further down into Shakamo that will go at some point. But this met all of our criteria, and it is in the needs area.
On
Matt?
this one, was that brought by staff or was that brought by the owner?
This was brought by, this is a public, the citizens article.
Okay.
And I did speak with the attorney representing them when we were reviewing this to ask why the lot next to them wasn't brought in, but they said that they did not represent those people, so they were just focused on their lot. So the other lot may come forward in another year or so.
And then this year, we didn't have a checklist and sort of, have you changed the criteria from doing like a checklist?
It should have been in the packet. I have the checklist in front of me for everything, so. Okay.
All right.
The,
All right, so you're still using the same
we're
thing?
still using the same checklist, and it's still myself, Roberto, and now Leslie meeting together. And I talked to Leslie just a little while ago, and she wanted to know if she needed to come, and I said we should be okay. So, but this one also was what met a favorable condition for being added to the district.
Yeah, I'm fine with the first two. This one, I'm a little hesitant. And the reason I am is if it gets a 2/3 vote, it gets a 2/3 vote. But the reason I think on the map, this doesn't have wetlands. This isn't constrained. I think what's happening, we say if we do this in the Harbor District, it's going to make everything better. But it's arguable, and we don't know if it makes it better because there's more hardscaping and more building is possible in these areas. And so no one has done the analysis and the study, and so I think it might not be a net positive in some of these harbor areas. So just for that reason, I'm opposed to the last one. I'm fine with the first two.
Brooke?
I'm sort of inclined to support ones that come up from staff as priorities rather than ones that are put forward by property owners. So I might be inclined to support the two and then require the 2/3 vote on the third one.
But weren't you saying that the intention, because of the watershed, is to continue to include more and more of these properties in Shimo?
Yes, correct. Ultimately, the Shakamo area, this will extend all the way up through Shakamo Hills in a future date. Right now, it's not priority plan to go forward that way. And the way these two lots are, they are the closest to what's already sewer. The sewer lines are right there. We did leave them for future. I can't give you a timeline on when the Shakamo area will be added next, but we have prepared for it, and it is in a needs area, high nitrogen sensitive area. Even though, like Matt's saying, it is a little further inland. So do we know if it has that impact? But I can check with Jeff a little bit more, but I know we are seeing some very improved numbers with some of the water testing that's going on, so in the harbor.
Madam Chair, if I may say,
Yes.
I mean, it is in a needs area, is in a nitrate sensitive area. It may have been proposed by a citizen, but it met the checklist. And that's why we have the checklist, to be fair. So staff and the experts are recommend, or not recommending not to do it, so I see no reason why we shouldn't.
I have a question for David. If it wasn't right next to would it have made the grade? Because you get points for
You
proximity.
get points for being adjacent to a district, yes, but it was automatic, it's in the needs area, so that still scored very high as well, so.
Yeah, I agree with Malcolm.
And I don't feel overly strongly, but I do feel like we need to understand, as we add density around the ponds and as we add density, around in these needs areas, we need to understand what we actually are doing. Because we might sewer and then undo all the good that we think we're going to do. And I've had conversations with the land council, I've had conversations here for years, and I'm not sure that we understand what the impact, of more cars and more hardscaping and more roofs and all of that stuff is running off into the harbor. So, but I don't feel strong, I'll go with the majority on this.
Okay, well, let's start with a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second, all those in favor by roll call, Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb,
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously.
Thank you, everyone.
Any further discussion? What's the pleasure?
Well, I'm comfortable making a motion to support, it's 69 and 70. Those are the first two.
So the recommendation is positive on 66,
It's 66.
ultimately no action on 70 because the parcels in 70 are already in 66.
Yep.
And sounds like a positive on 71.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second? Is
We'll make it easier for us.
there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor by roll call, Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb, Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. Good discussion.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I get the checklist, but I guess really my question is if we're expanding lot by lot by lot, as opposed to in a more sort of comprehensive way in an area is sort of that's my concern. So in terms of the process and the build, obviously they're able to connect because they're abutting it.
And we have to remember, we have sorry.
I was just gonna say, and I don't know the background behind it, but I would guess that there might be a situation where they're needing to redo their septic and it's very expensive in a harbor watershed, and to be able to preemptively get connected into sewer, if it's coming in the 10 years anyway, might make a lot of sense. But that's just my guess of what might be happening.
Madam
Libby?
Chair, just want to make sure, we've had a comment associated with these articles in the past that getting into the sewer district like this doesn't mean the town is going to connect you.
Right.
The
And this still has to go to town meeting.
The other thing that has happened in a couple of places is someone, further away runs a sewer and then everybody else forced to connect, and a lot of people can't afford to. And we've had that Morgan Square over in the Badlands, we had some of that, and it became a real burden for the people who had perfectly working septic systems who are being told you have to get rid of them. And so I think, this one is pretty easy. It's right adjacent and it's not gonna do that. But sometimes people are doing it for their own benefit, but all their neighbors are struggling. And so I think we have to just be aware of that as well.
Well, that's kind of what ties into what I was saying. If they were including 10 houses down the road that have functioning septic systems, and there's, you're pushing other people to do things that could be an economic hardship.
We did look at that in the regulations when we did it, similar to what Morgan Square had, is that going forward, the proponent who's putting in the sewer line would be responsible for a lot of the fees. So that came out of some of these expansions that have happened over the years, and that was a consequence that at the time was unseen, but then move forward. So now we're paying more attention to that, and it's working so far. We have had like cases in Schimmer where someone didn't want to be in the district. They can take and vote to have their lot taken out, but in the year and a half later, their septic system failed. But they could not connect to the sewer until they went back to town meeting. So we're trying to include everyone going along. This could not be built for another 5, 6, 7 years. We don't know. It's Baxter Road's going to kind of give us that's going to be the trigger for this. So,
Madam Chair, I'd just like to point out that compared the way things were in the past, the whole septic system and the checklists and the review by the staff members is great improvement. It makes it's fairer and forward-thinking.
Yeah, it's been an evolution, but it's really heading in the right direction. And there's always unintended consequences that you need to work through. Good, thanks, David. Town managers report.
Thank you. So we have our communications manager here, Florencia Rulo. She is online. And we have been talking about translation issues lately. And she's going to give you a little update about where we are, some comps that comparisons that have been obtained from other towns, and what the sort of landscape is regarding document translation.
Hi. Well, thanks for having me tonight. So yes, I guess that the idea was, so hopefully you had an opportunity of looking at the AIS that was in your packet. I think that the communications office and town administration are trying to get a sense of what the select board would like to see translated into other languages. Documents are unlimited, and we're trying to be as productive as we can in what we translate, making sure that it gets to people that need it. So we did a lot of research as to what other municipalities are doing, and it's a little bit all over the map. There is no regulations or no policies at the state or federal level that tell municipalities what documents we should be translated versus what documents are not necessarily supposed to be in other languages. So ultimately, it depends on the select board decision, how we move forward. We have recommendations, and I can give you, I don't know if it makes sense tonight to mention municipalities that we've been looking at within the Commonwealth. But seen right now, what Nantucket is doing is it's more than what other municipalities are doing. So I don't know, we've talked mostly to Brooke during the last year. I know Brooke's opinion, but I would like to know what the rest of the select board is thinking about. And I don't know, Greg, if you want to mention something. Basically, we started translating documents. When I started working full-time, I'm a translator, but we didn't have a policy as to what documents are translated versus the ones that we don't. So during COVID is when we realized that mostly health and human services documents should be translated into Spanish and possibly Portuguese, considering that about 20% of the Nantucket population speak a language that is not English at home. Then within the last year and a few months, we engaged with Global Interpretation Services. This is an interpreters and translations company that has been providing us translation for larger documents. And also, actually, tomorrow will be the first time that we use their interpreter services for the Parks and Recreation public meeting. And we translated Warrant last year. We are trying to get a sense if that's how you want to move forward, or if we should create a policy that kind of identifies public documents that are vital for LEP people that are not proficient in English to have access to. So that's where we're at the moment. And I would like to know, Greg, if you want to add something, or if what the select board is, thinking.
No, you did a great job. The AAS is explanatory, just getting guidance from the select board about next steps on where they'd like to go with this pretty massive universe of translation services. But you have recommendations in the AIS that I guess the board can discuss.
Does anyone have any initial thoughts?
I have one question, Madam Chair.
Sure.
What is the use of the translated documents? I mean, how many documents you translate are read in those languages? Do we have a way of tracking that?
No, the same way as we don't have a way of tracking what documents are read in English. So the rule says that documents that are vital for the well-being of the community in general should be accessible in English and also in other languages. So I would say that whether we know how many people are reading a document in English versus Spanish might not be relevant as to what's the importance of the document. And if one person reads a document in Spanish, but this document is a birth certificate, let's say, then that's important enough. The town administration and I discussed the importance of documents like master plans, the strategic plan, the coastal resilience plan, social and environmental justice documents, forms. Those have a little bit of them are more important than others, let's say. But there is no way of really tracking all the documents that are read.
Right.
It will be incredibly time consuming. We'll have to track URLs. At the moment, we are not there, and I don't know if that would make sense.
And I mean, to some extent, translating those really large documents is time consuming and expensive.
If
people aren't requesting them to be done, is there something that might be more helpful, like sometimes having a translator at a select board meeting or at a town meeting? I don't know. I want the resources to be spent where the need really.
Yeah, Madam Chair, that was really my question, was a cost benefit. Are we spending a lot of money for one person to read one document, or are we spending the appropriate amount of money for a community to read the important ones? I guess we don't have that information.
Yeah, Malcolm's question is a good question. I was going to ask it is, how many of what is translated, how many times are they downloaded? How often are they read? It's Coastal Resiliency. Doug Rose has started tracking the amounts of looks and shares and everything on the outreach, and it's pretty incredible. Every month you get a report of how many things have been put out there, how many times it's been shared, and how many different venues. It makes you realize that this is working, and when you don't put something in, like we didn't have a lot going on this month, so there wasn't a lot in, and you could see, okay, it didn't happen as much. And I'm thinking about the cost effectiveness of this. And so I asked AI, I said, okay, how would you do this? And an AI is telling me you can prioritize your documents, use machine translation, and then a bunch of other things that we're already doing, crowdsource or, hire somebody, et cetera. I said, can a town place a link on their website so the citizens can translate whatever they want by themselves? Yes, absolutely. Providing a link on the town's website that allows citizens to translate the content themselves is a common and cost-effective approach. There are several ways to implement this. Integration with translation tools, language selections as a drop-down, translation plugins or extensions provide it. So there is a way, I think, maybe we'd be better off spending is that possible? Maybe we can spend it that way and people can translate into different languages themselves.
We do have our two websites, Sun City and Civic Plus. I'm sure that you're all very familiar with. They do have translation tools. That's something that we've had for a very long time. We use AI and machine translations. For legal documents, there is another side to it that sometimes you do need a translator or an interpreter for legal purposes. You cannot 100% rely on translation machines for all documents. But we do, so yes, a Spanish speaker can visit our website and get a pretty good idea of most of the things that are posted on the website that are not PDFs, for example. So every web page of the website can be translated into another language. That's something that already has existed for a while now.
And and what I'm thinking about, Francis, is can that be buffed up? Can we, more rely on that? Because if we're picking one language and trying to decide, or two languages, and which documents and which document, and it's sort of, is there a way to, buff it up so that people can look at any document? And we could put a warning that this will not be translated perfectly necessarily, and if you have any questions, contact and do what we're doing now. But it was just a thought.
I am definitely not suggesting that we should translate every document and web page that the website has. That's definitely not what I'm here for. We are here because we've gotten requests from different departments and commissions, and some of the requests I think that are more valid than others, where we should be translating documents like master plans, vital records that do either require public input to move forward or have a legal aspect. Those are the documents that we should be considering whether we want to translate or not. Public outreach, social media, pages on the website, those are not talking about. We do have either machine translation or myself to translate smaller documents, but it's the wish of the select board to dedicate resources to translating larger documents that do carry a legal aspect attached to them or demand public input to move forward. We cannot rely on machine translation for every document. We can decide not to translate documents. That's something that we can do. But I don't think that that's where the select board wants to go. And it is important to recognize that there is an important percentage of the population that at home speak in their majority Spanish. So
okay,
yeah,
that's what I wanted to point out.
Thanks. Florencia and I have been talking about this for a while now. Really this, concern around communication in multiple languages became highlighted during COVID because of public safety measures. And in my mind, there's the sort of necessity from that point of view, right, of public health. And then there's the question of inclusion, belonging, feeling a sense of community, feeling that our government wants to communicate with folks who may have difficulty understanding things that are produced only in English. So I do absolutely, when I look at the price tag of translating the entire town meeting warrant, that's a lot of money. And I'm not sure the demand for that is there to justify that expense at this point. So when this was put on the agenda, when we put this on the agenda, really, I got thinking about, I've been a big proponent of this for a while. I'm wondering, Florencia, whether there's the potential to do some community outreach through Zen City and ask the community what things would be priorities for folks to have available and translated, and what folks need, what they would desire, what they might use most. And maybe that's the place to start, is asking the people who would be utilizing these records and maybe categorizing them so that we can prioritize them. Is that a possibility?
Absolutely. We can definitely do some outreach on it. There's a ton of information online as to what is that public agencies and municipalities and state governments should be translating. And I can tell you, again, vital records, matters related to policy, health and human services, transportation, housing, documents that affect whether a person can live their everyday life or not. Mm-hmm. I can certainly do outreach on it and see what is that we get from the results. That's something that we can do. I think that it's important to think that it is a very nice gesture trying to include as many people as possible and trying to reach out to people that might not be proficient when it comes to speaking or understanding English. When we translate a document and the person reads it, like the warrant, what happens after the person reads the warrant in their own language, if they go to a select board meeting, to a town meeting, and they don't have a way of understanding what's happening in the meeting. And that's the reason why I'm here. We need to think of it in a more holistic way, that if we're going to be providing outreach in another language, if the person comes back with questions, we need to be able to respond to that. So
yeah, I
think it's a good conversation.
I almost feel like there could, it would feel, and I mean, this isn't for me to answer, but I would think it might feel more inclusive to have some verbal translation at meetings for people who are listening to us on the radio. And I mean, I've noticed that that's been more and more incorporated into some of the church services where they're mixing English and Spanish throughout the whole sermon and the readings and everything. Because you translate the warrant, someone comes because they're concerned about a certain article, and then they don't know what anybody is saying without a live interpreter there. Would we have been better off just hiring the live interpreter instead of translating the warrant, and the one thing that they were concerned with maybe gets translated? Can there be an on-demand translation to some extent as needed? I don't know. And I don't know the exact right answer to this, but I think that just having a bunch of really thick documents that might not get read might be not as good of a use of financial resources as more live and more on-demand type of services.
Yeah, so one thing that, and then tomorrow is the first time that we'll be using an interpreter at a meeting. We anticipate that some Spanish speakers might be willing to attend to the meeting. We want them to feel comfortable and speak in their own language. That will be a first test for us. Next week, the Affordable Housing Trust, a Spanish speaker that is applying for housing application will be answering 2 questions from the Affordable Housing Trust in Spanish. So I think that we can do more outreach, definitely, to let the community know that the resources are available to them, and then we see how these progress. And I don't think that an interpreter is needed for every meeting, but in meetings where we anticipate the need for an interpreter, we have the resources.
Or that it could be requested.
Right.
I think I think it's interesting. The questions you're asking of us, I think, Florencia, you're answering them yourself. I think you're asking us to make these, decisions and return, on certain things. But then when you're speaking, I think better than we do which things are necessary by the community. And I think the 2 meetings that you just talked about, I think everyone would agree those are important to translate and have someone there. But so you suggest that you assist in return with a work plan and cost estimates. I think that's what we should be doing, is let you run with this and come back. I don't want to be picking something that's going to be really expensive or that isn't going to be effective or that is completely missing. I'm not necessarily in favor of doing more, outreach and asking people what they want, because people will want 3-bedroom houses when they need a 1-bedroom, whatever. I mean, sometimes we ask questions and we get an answer, but the reality is we're constrained by a budget and we're constrained by what is actually able to be done. So I think that Florencia is got a pretty good sense of it. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of, if I was to move to France tomorrow and there was an issue that was coming up that was important to me in my new community, I think it would be more impactful for me to have someone help me translate the language, the written language, but to be able to go and speak and have it interpreted. So that's the kind of things I'm weighing if we're choosing where's money better spent.
I like the idea of making meetings linguistically accessible for people in a way that I think the idea that it could be requested maybe, and then I had thought a while back before I was elected to the select board that it would be cool to start publicizing that sort of 1 meeting a month there would be an interpreter available for public comment, and just see, or that it could be requested that we have a live interpreter, or if there's a topic. I think that to me, it's about opening the lines of communication between our government and people for whom English is a challenge. And that's the goal. I don't know how to get there, but it's almost, it's extending an invitation and making the service available. If people don't know that it's even possible to engage with government in their native language, they're not going to show up, they're not going to ask. So I think it's a bit of a chicken and an egg situation, and I think it's about finding the right opportunities to present the availability of the service to the community, and then that will grow a better understanding of the demand. And I think, this interpreter service that's available now for town employees by phone, to me, we're only paying for it when it's utilized. It's a really great example of when it's needed, it will be used, and then the word will spread. I happen to, in the nonprofit that I run, we're responsible for a private grant from the Community Foundation that makes available live interpreter on the phone and translation of documents. I may have mentioned this before. The demand for that has tripled in 2024. So there is a movement in the community for greater engagement with, invitation to, and access for primarily Spanish and Portuguese speaking members of our community. And I just don't, I want us to be leaders in this rather than followers. But I think Matt's right, to some extent. Florencia is more on the ball about this. And I'd love to see how the Parks and Rec meeting goes. And because the word will get out that this is a possibility. And hopefully more people will ask. So that it didn't really help. I didn't really help you, Florencia, but I don't think we should spend a lot of money translating documents that haven't been asked for.
Yeah.
I think the Park and Rec is a perfect example of when there's a strong interest in a topic. People, will bring a friend that is, is bilingual and come and speak, and speak about something that's important to a community. And I think, and tomorrow will be very interesting, and that's things that, sort of, I've been working on from a different angle, from the sports angle for 20, 25 years, getting fields for, the various people on island, and sort of that brings a lot of people, has brought a lot of people together. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the idea of someone being able to relay what we're saying at a meeting. So I think it's a work in progress of identifying where and when to spend the resources and making it known that people can ask for it and that we're open to it. Right?
Right. Madam Chair, I think we're on our way, but I love the idea of a translator for our public comment at our meetings.
Yeah.
Something we could start relatively soon.
Yeah.
And maybe the idea is to publicize that it's going to be available for quite some time. And I've said, when I thought about the idea, I thought, well, we make an interpreter available, and it may be a long time before someone comes and utilizes that service, but it is the invitation that's implied in making that service available that we want to hear from you, regardless of whether you feel comfortable communicating with us in English.
But also, Madam Chair, I'd like someone to translate the warrants that are presently in English. Some of them, with all the legalese, are difficult to read. So I can't imagine trying to translate them in some other language.
Yeah.
May I suggest?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that what I understand is that the select board would like a little bit more of outreach, targeting Spanish speakers or other languages we'll do some communications, we'll do some outreach, we'll see what the community would like to see translated. We will see how we use the information that we obtain from this outreach. It could be in the form of a survey or social media post. I'll brainstorm a little bit on it. And then will it be okay if, I don't know in what amount of time, a couple months, couple meetings, we come back with a proposal of what communications administrations consider that should be translated into, I would say, Spanish and Portuguese. I do think that those are the two main languages that documents should be translated into, and how we can best use an interpreter at public meetings. What's the policy that we want to use, and how we can invite the community to feel more welcome or to be prepared to participate, for example, at a select board meeting, maybe once a month, where they know that an interpreter will be available for a certain period of time. Is that more or less?
I think that's where we're heading, and I think we'll be really interested to hear how the next couple meetings go with Park and Rec and the Affordable Housing Trust. So maybe we can reconvene on this with some more ideas, and maybe a pilot night where we make an interpreter available during public comment in like 4 to 6 weeks. Does that sound like an appropriate timeline? Okay, we'll just figure out what agenda to put it on. Oh, Tom.
Yes, Madam Chair, just through you to Florencia, really good work leaning into this. I'm sure we are as you stated before, way ahead of a lot of other municipalities. And I think I agree with the rest of the board's comments that this is very important to move forward. So really good work. And I completely agree with your summary of the recommendations for coming back. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think we need a vote. Just direction. Last up, we have committee reports. Anyone have anything new? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn?
Is there a
Second.
second? Okay, all those in favor by roll call, Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Malcolm McDowell,
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. Carries unanimously. Until next time.